What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Into the Stands, episode 11. We got a lot to talk about today because it's our first episode in a few weeks, 2 weeks. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. We have so much to talk about. We'll start with the NFL, but when we get to the World Cup, God, I mean, Jesus Christ, so much stuff happened. It's crazy. And in the NFL, we have an insane Week 13 coming up. Guys, start it up.
So we're going to start off talking about the New York Giants here. And the last time we were on the show, the New York Giants had a 7-2 record. Things are looking very good in Giants land. But since our last show, the Giants have doubled their loss total and have fallen to 7-4 on the season. Now, the first loss came against the Detroit Lions. Now, many viewed this game against the Lions as a trap game for the Giants. And it basically was in most instances, really the worst performance I think the Giants have had all year. We saw them lose a game 31-18 to the Detroit Lions, and just so many injuries and really just unnecessary ways that they happen. I mean, I think we saw really the first bad decision that Brian Dable made in that first game against the Lions. And that was that he made Adoree Jackson return punts. And we knew that return punts was a problem for the Giants. We saw Richie James do it against Seattle. It didn't end up working. So they put Adoree Jackson out there. The problem is that you do not risk your top cornerback and put him in a position to injure himself on a play like that when it really does not matter. I mean, Adoree Jackson, it's not like he's a fantastic returner. It's not like you have Devin Hester back there returning punts. But Adoree Jackson returned about 8 yards and got injured, and he will be out for the foreseeable future. Likely won't come back to the last couple of weeks of the regular season. Devastating blow for the Giants. But on top of that, too, the cornerback, too, Fabian Moreau, who's had a fantastic year, also got hurt. We still have to wait to see when we get him back. And that loss to the Lions, I mean, it really just hurt. But they had a quick turnaround. They were able to make it up, possibly, against the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. A game that ended up becoming the most watched regular season game of all time. 42 million people tuned in, including myself, to see if the Giants can maybe pull off a huge upset. Well, it looked like they had a chance. The first half, they jumped out to a 13-7 lead. We saw a touchdown get called back. Isaiah Hodgins got into the end zone, but much to Brian Dable's anger, they called it back because, as the Giants do many times throughout the year, there's been illegal shifts, illegal formation, so it got called back. But they still hit on the deep bomb of Darius Slade and send up a Saquon Barkley touchdown. And on top of that, too, Dak Prescott threw 2 interceptions in that first half. And the Giants still were not able to really capitalize the way that they would have wanted to because they only walked away with a 13-7 lead at halftime. But that lead quickly evaporated. The Cowboys then ended up scoring 21 unanswered points to take a 28-13 lead, where the Giants got a garbage time touchdown, and the Giants lost 28-20 on Thanksgiving. So sitting at 7-4, it's not a good look. It's not a good situation at all. I mean, we knew that with this Giants team that, you have to keep your expectations low. We know that this is a rebuild. We know that we're, hoping for a playoff spot, but those 2 losses are not going to help you at all. And you look at the remaining schedule for the Giants, they have a huge, huge game against the Commanders next Sunday. This is a game which by all means you have to win. And the reason why is that the Giants, yes, they still do play the Commanders in their time in Washington. But with the way the NFL schedule has worked out, the New York Giants will play the Commanders 2 times in 3 weeks. Now, Washington has their bye in the middle of those 2 games. So Washington is essentially playing the Giants back-to-back, which means that they will be prepping for the New York Giants for 3 straight weeks. So it is going to be very hard for you to win that second game against Washington in Washington. I do not see really many ways that the Giants can win that, especially considering how well that the Commanders have been playing throughout, the stretch of the season. To their credit, they started at 1-4. Now they're here at 7-5. Taylor Heineke is really leading that team. So what it comes down to now is it looks like, at least in the NFC, for the last 2 seeds, for the 6 and 7 seed, because all indications showed the Cowboys are going to get one. We assume the Eagles are going to win the division, but it looks like it's going to come down to the Giants, the Commanders, and the Seahawks. The Giants already lost to the Seahawks. The Seahawks already have the tiebreaker, so you're going to get no favors there. So really making sure that you have a better record than Washington is so vital. So this next game on Sunday, definitely going to be one of my games of the week. I think the Giants need to win that game for sure. And, they had a meeting today with Odell Beckham Jr. We still need to wait to see what happens on that front. Obviously, we want to see him come back in blue, but he still has meetings lined up with the Buffalo Bills and the Dallas Cowboys. Really would not want to see him become a Cowboy. At least, though, we're going to get some reinforcements. You heard that Azeez Ojulari, Daniel Bellinger, and Evan Neal may come back on Sunday, so that definitely would be helpful. I mean, Azeez Ojulari, it's kind of been a lost season for him. We saw the great production he had last year. But hopefully him getting back, I mean, originally when the season first began, the vision was that for him and Kayvon Thibodeau, it would be kind of a 1-2 edge rushing threat. And, Daniel Bellinger, the numbers won't wow you, but he's really kind of added a different dimension to this offense. I mean, it's much better having Daniel Bellinger in there as your starting tight end than maybe the likes of Lawrence Cager or Tanner Hudson. I mean, Bellinger's been much more reliable in the pass catching game. And Evan Neal, obviously, too. He's had his struggles. He had a bad game against the Cowboys. He gave up a lot of sacks to Marcus Lawrence. But to his credit, he's bounced back, and he's been kind of a reliable right tackle for this team. So Huge game on Sunday. The remaining schedule, I mean, we're going to see Commanders, Eagles, Commanders, Vikings, Colts, and Eagles again. The only team with a losing record in there is the Colts. So by all means, the Giants do have their work cut out for them. And if they make the playoffs, I mean, maybe they make it in at 9-8, but I think that you're going to need to make it at 10-7 in order to make the NFC playoffs. At least that's what I imagine. So by that logic, you'd think that the Giants would beat the Colts, maybe split Washington, but then you're going to need a win against either the Eagles or the Vikings to make the playoffs if you need to get in at 10-7. So it's going to be tough, but well, I guess we'll really just see if this team is up for it. We'll really see what this team is made of. We'll see if they were just a team who, was riding off high momentum, surpassed a lot of expectations, or are they really this team who can maybe turn around the Giants culture? Well, we'll get into the New York Jets right about now because the New York Jets also had a very interesting couple of weeks. So, when we were last on the show, we were talking about the matchup against the New England Patriots, but Zach Wilson got benched. Mike White came in and he dominated. Robbie, let's talk about it.
Actually, the last time we were here, we had actually addressed saying that was going to be a game of the week prediction. That was my game of the week to watch. And I thought New England was going to run the Jets out of the building. Well, that didn't really happen. If you saw the conditions, there was about 20-something mile-an-hour winds. We kind of did. We got run off the field. Zach Wilson, uninspiring for two reasons. We're going to look at the stat numbers. 9 of 22 for 77 yards. For context, he also was, what was it, about 4 inches per play in the second half? It was something like that, right, guys? I think it was about 4 inches or 3 inches. I don't know.
Yeah.
But not inspirational. And the Jets had around 120 total yards. They had that in the first 2 drives against Chicago. I mean, granted, Chicago, we'll go into that game in a second, but they're not the best defense in the world. New England really showed how strong their defense is, led by Matthew Judon on the edge. But the leading receiver for the Jets was Denzel Mims. Zach Wilson was also the leading rusher in this game for the Jets. 3 carries, 26 yards. Yeah, that's all we need to say about that. But the defense held it down. Quinnen Williams had a phenomenal game. Sauce Gardner, after an early miscue, locked down Jacoby Myers for most of that game. But Mac Jones really showed, in that all adversity in a game that they needed to win, Mac Jones showed that he's, in the conditions that they were in, he can still show that he's that guy for New England. He had a great game as well. But, Zach Wilson, why did you say that to the media? Offense not being an issue, 126 total yards. He gets shown the door despite being 5-2. Not controversial at all. We have to dive into that in a second. But we head into week 12, and, people think, is it going to be Mike White or Joe Flacco? I think I praised week 1 thinking Mike White should have been the starter. Mike White gets his start and instantly looks like a world beater going up against the injury-ridden Chicago Bears, led by former New York Jet Trevor Siemian, who it should have been Nathan Peterman, to be fair. But, Trevor Siemian injured his oblique in warm-ups. It was still Trevor Siemian. I bet they're going to regret that decision, as Mike White goes to 22-28 for 315 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. When was the last time we saw a 300-plus yard game by the Jets? Zach Wilson against the Patriots the first time. He hasn't thrown for over 200 yards in a game since, up until we just saw what Mike White did. But the leading rusher was Zonovan Knight, who replaced the injured James Robinson. That's very interesting. 14 of 69. Good game all around. Garrett Wilson proving why he's a number 1 wide receiver in this league. Elijah Moore finally catching a touchdown. The defense, after an awful start, holding it down. CJ Mosley getting the first interception by a Jets player, and by a Jets linebacker, I think 3 years. I believe he was the last one as well. But this game raises many questions, rather more questions than answers, saying, what's the long-term look for the Jets going to be like? Is it going to be Mike White as the starter? How long does Zach Wilson stay on this team? Does he get traded in the offseason? But you always have to know, if no one here knows anything about Zach Wilson in his college career, he got benched his sophomore year halfway through the season. Comes back and destroys the next 2 years. Could we see a possible repeat of that storyline? But all we know for sure is that the coin streak was broken. That's about it. The Jets do their thing. They get the job done. But unfortunately, we did get a little bit of an eyebrow raiser this morning, coming from James Robinson being frustrated at lack of production. Why? I don't get that, because he's been here for 3 games? 4? Something like that, whenever the trade deadline was. And he's done stuff. but he was technically listed out with an injury last week. And he's been getting an okay amount of touches compared to guys to the names of Michael Carter and whoever else they've used in that lineup. LaMichael Pirine when he was on the team, Ty Johnson. So it's a very interesting note. But yeah, Jets 7-4, 7th spot in the playoffs. Very interesting game coming up against Jay Jettas and the Minnesota Vikings. Because Justin Jefferson looks like a world beater as well. He's probably, what do you guys think, the best receiver in the league? Justin Jefferson this year? I mean, you saw that. I mean, it's debatable, yeah, but you saw that. No one is ever going to forget not ever going to forget, but not going to forget for a little while, that catch against Buffalo on 4th and 10. That just proved how good he is. Like, seeing he can make plays like that. But a game that I want to find that was notable, and we're going back to week 11, because Washington, hello, welcome back to the full. Taylor Heineke looking like that guy. He went up and beat Houston and Buffalo. Jesus, Buffalo. They were losing the majority of that game to the Cleveland Browns. And what did the Cleveland Browns do? They showed how to choke games. They went out and lost to the Buffalo Bills 31-23. And they get a bounce back game at the time for Buffalo, going up against a Cleveland Browns team that beat Tampa. And what the NFC South looks like, I want to bring this up real quick. They're the new equivalent of tank division, like what the NFC was 2 years ago. That's going to be a very fun storyline to look out through the rest of the season. You see Tampa Bay, see what they're doing. 5-6. What's the Falcons? 5-7. What the heck are we doing, guys? Carolina's still in the mix. I think they're like a game or two out of it. Good thing. Sam Darnold, by the way, shout out to Sam Darnold for being a former New York Jet bust. He went out and beat Russell Wilson and destroyed my fantasy team. But yeah, Sam Darnold threw for about as many yards as Zach Wilson would and beat Russell Wilson. So that just proves that almost any quarterback in this league can go out and beat Denver somehow. Because Russell Wilson, all he knows is how to do is say, Broncos country, let's ride. And that's about it. But, I mean, Colin, you got another game you want to look at from week 11 first before we really dive into week 12?
I mean, going back to the action from week 11, I got to actually pull back, the games that happened that week. But yeah, the game you mentioned with Buffalo and the Browns, very weird. We saw the Browns actually go into the Detroit locker room. I mean, definitely something that.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. That game was in Buffalo.
Yeah, so you saw while we were watching the game, we saw Detroit Lions logos litter the field, and that was very weird to watch. But let's take a look at the games that happened throughout that week. So
the Chargers.
Yep. Chargers Chiefs played on Sunday Night Football. Mahomes led a game-winning drive. The Chiefs ended up winning 30-27. Another game that happened that week, the Cowboys absolutely demolished the Minnesota Vikings 40-3. Everyone was talking about how Minnesota, might have that momentum coming off that huge win at Buffalo, but nope. And Dallas came off of a crushing loss against Green Bay, but they dominated them. I mean, all credit goes to Dallas. I mean, we saw it against the Giants. As much as I hate to say it, maybe they are a Super Bowl contender. We still have to wait to see. The Eagles won a very narrow one over the Colts. Jeff Saturday almost had an undefeated record as a head coach for 2 weeks, but Philadelphia ended up holding on there. Yeah, Jeff Saturday. I mean, we saw. We'll get into that, but they had a Monday night game just back on Monday where there was some poor clock management by Jeff Saturday. But I guess that's bound to happen with a first-year head coach, especially a head coach who had no experience coaching anything other than high school football. Yeah. But I mean, hey, he was a former Pro Bowl center. We saw all the years of Peyton Manning, so we'll see what happens there in Indianapolis. And he's an analyst too.
You would think as an analyst, you wouldn't, and going after, because I've known he's been on the record before for going after coaches with terrible clock management. Anthony Lynn of the Chargers specifically a couple of years ago. What was that? I mean, we get to go into that in a bit, but that was seeing what he did there was very odd from an analyst perspective. But you got any more games for us?
I mean, in terms of the past couple of weeks, no, I think where you might be better served talking about most of the games that are coming up here in week 13. Because, looking at this, and I'm not just saying that because of the sake of us being on the show right now, but this looks like one of the best weeks of football we may have for the entire regular season. So many good games. I believe there's 6 or 7 matchups between teams with winning records. Yes, so I'm going to deflect it over to Chris here. Chris, what is your game or games to look at?
So many. Oh, I'm going to start with tonight's game, which I know we're going to get into.
Oh,
we're
gonna
dive in deeper into it, but I'm just going to quickly say Bills Patriots. I mean, this is a very exciting game just from the names of the two teams, right? Just like the Bills Patriots, two very popular football teams that a lot of people around here seem to love. But both teams trying to fight for the division. I mean, if the Patriots win this game, the AFC East. The AFC East is still
because
very much in the
you
play
would
for them.
think
You're thinking they're running away with the
you would
Bills.
you would think the Jets lose. The Patriots can go back into third if they win this game.
Yeah, and I mean,
Which, by the
it's
way,
crazy.
the Jets are in the last wild card spot. Then I believe it's the Chargers. I believe is or Bengals. Sorry, correction. Thank you for that. And then it's Buffalo. So it's a game apart, 2 games apart from like what 5 teams, 6
Right.
teams. That it's utter chaos. And to think of some of the teams that are here, no Denver Broncos, no. I mean, people can argue the Browns will be decent. Then
Right.
again, they do get Deshaun back this week. Not controversial at all. As they're playing his former team, the Texans.
And they're competing with the Chargers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's
very interesting.
very interesting. So the Patriots need this game. The Bills need it too. They want to win this division too. They're tied with the Dolphins right now.
I mean, if you think
We're
that
going into the game against 49ers.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they finally lose a game with 2 under center. Who knows?
Right. I mean, yeah, he's been God. I remember. I think it's ever since
the injury. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that too. But I'm saying, I remember I made that comment. We were talking about the Dolphins getting Chubb.
Yes.
And how
I remember that
they need a quarterback because that you were comparing them to the Rams. And
yes,
they need
that's
a quarterback.
right.
And he's just been insane. I mean, he was doing that before that. Like you said, since the injury.
Maybe he's kind of just like that. Maybe he's just like that.
Yeah, maybe it's gonna be the curse of me. But yeah, Dolphins, 49ers. That's another one that I think, Colin, you were gonna get into more. But I guess the other one I would go with is Jets Vikings, and it's also
you're still in my pick now. What are we doing? Come on,
I'm stealing yours now. I just think that's huge for the Jets. I think it's worth mentioning, even if it's your pick, because I mean that's such a big game for the Jets. Even with what happens tonight and the Vikings, I mean, still trying to win their division. I mean, they think they pretty much they're in a good spot, but they
it's actually I'm going to go into that in a second.
They still, I mean, you want to be the number 1 seed competing with the Eagles still.
Yeah.
A lot of things that can be determined in that game as well. So you want to continue on with that one?
A game I don't think anyone's going to care about at all. Minnesota needs a win, and for Jacksonville to beat Detroit. Detroit's I'm going to put that as a game to watch. Battle of scrappy teams. They have very interesting identities. You look at Detroit, they don't give up at all. They barely lost to Buffalo on Thanksgiving. If you watch that game, the only reason that they lost because the kicker can't make a 29-yard field goal. That's unbelievable that happens. So I'm still mesmerized by it. But at the end of the day, another game to look at. You went over Jets Vikings. I'm going to dive into that more as well. You get Mike White, who's starting a quarterback. You get Kirk Cousins, who finally won a game not at 1:00 on a Sunday, as he went out and beat New England on Thanksgiving night. But you look at this game and the implications that are on this game, it's unbelievable. You're going to see some of the best an underrated wide receiver cornerback matchup in Justin Jefferson and Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner, by the way, is one of the leading getters for the Pro Bowl. Now, I get no one cares about the Pro Bowl anymore because it's, flag football this year? I mean, Justin Jefferson would fit perfectly for that because no one can even try to tackle or go after this man. But yeah, I do think Minnesota should win this game on paper. I'm not saying this game's going to be a blowout by any means because it's Kirk Cousins and we don't know how Kirk Cousins plays. I mean, it is a 1:00 on a Sunday at home, so you never know. But one final game I'm going to go into, we're going into the 4:00 session because there's an interesting matchup in Cincinnati, Ohio, as we get Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs playing Joe Burrow, a rematch. I believe this is a playoff rematch, right, guys? AFC Championship rematch. Phenomenal battle between two. You start with Patrick Mahomes, who's probably one of the best QBs in the league, and Joe Burrow, who has led an injury-plagued Cincinnati Bengals all the way where they are now. They should get Joe Mixon back this week. I know Jamar Chase is possibly coming back. I don't know. I think they might rest him this game, but you never know. I mean, that's a fun game to watch as well. Two guys who are trying to really compete, especially with Cincinnati. If they lose this game, it's possible they fall out of the playoffs, guys. If the Chargers win and the Jets win, they could fall out of the playoffs entirely. And Baltimore, also, that's true as well, but Baltimore has to get the job done against Russell Wilson. If you lose to Russell Wilson after losing, they lost to Carolina, what are we doing? But now, a lot of fun games. I mean, one final one I want to tap into. You got a streaky Ryan Tannehill going to Philadelphia. Didn't we say something about streaky guys who could be really streaky going into Philadelphia and playing Philadelphia and trying to win games? Didn't we say that a couple weeks ago on Monday Night Football with Taylor Heineke? I mean, they're Tennessee's in a good mood. They just lost to Cincinnati, but they gave a great effort. I mean, despite their offense being the most one-dimensional thing I've ever seen in my life, other than the Jets with Joe Flacco throwing 50 times a game. But besides the fact, I think Eagles-Titans is going to be another good game to watch as well. Colin, you got anything else for us?
One extra note on the Eagles-Titans. Two teams that love to run the football. We saw the Eagles on Sunday Night Football against the Packers rush for 360 yards, the most for the team has had since 1948. And Jalen Hurts had 100 rushing yards in that first quarter alone. So you can just see that they can really run the ball at you in any way. They have the best O-line in football. You got Jason Kelsey there at center, Lane Johnson, other guys there as well. And they're just going to run the football upon you for 60 minutes, and that's how they play. So, and also the Titans, obviously, with Derrick Henry. So that's going to be a fun matchup to see. Game could go by very quickly, as I imagine. There's not going to be a lot of passes in general from both Jalen Hurts and Ryan Tannehill. But, yeah, definitely one to look at. Browns-Texans. That is going to be a very controversial game. Deshaun Watson coming back to his old team, the Houston Texans. I imagine if Texans fans do show up in big numbers, it's going to be a very hostile crowd. But I'm going to pick the Houston Texans here. I'm going to say the Houston Texans pull off the upset. Deshaun Watson has not played in 2 years. He does not, I think there's going to be some rust there. I'm going to go for the Houston Texans in a very spirited win. I say that is their last one of the season, but I'm going to pick them to win just for the sake of it. Go Texans. But looking around the picture here, Giants Commanders obviously is the one that I need to get into. Now, like I mentioned, very important game. Another aspect about the Giants that I did not bring up before, and I was talking about them previously, Saquon Barkley has been pretty much contained the last couple of weeks. Both Detroit and Dallas kind of found the formula for stopping him, really just overloading the box and forcing the Giants' passing offense to really try to beat you that way. And it has not been working. We've seen just simply with those receivers, it's not going to work. I mean, we saw Kenny Golladay have 2 catches against the Lions. They got a standing ovation from the New York fans, but it's just not working.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Only receiver you can count on is Darius Slayton in that passing game. And even then, it's not like Darius Slayton is going to wow you, but it's going to be tough for the Giants. I mean, you're at home. So for that reason, I'm going to pick them in a narrow game here because, I mean, you have to win this game. I think that has been stressed to them many times. I mean, it's going to be very tough winning that game in Washington, especially with the schedule ahead. And Washington has been very hot right now. And I think that maybe the Giants could possess, maybe a threat to them. The Giants haven't played on Thanksgiving. They're kind of on a short bye here, 10-day break. I think really also with the guys returning, Ojulari, Evan Neal, Daniel Bellinger, maybe they can give a boost to the team. So, I mean, I can see the Commanders winning this game very much, but I say the Giants edge out a close win here, and a win which they need to have. Dolphins 49ers, the game that Chris was kind of getting into a little bit earlier. This is my top game of the week. And the reason why is because I think that this matchup presents to you the 2 dark horse contenders for the Super Bowl in both the AFC and the NFC. The Miami Dolphins, they're not going to get talked as much about not going to get it talked enough like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills do. But the Miami Dolphins have been playing amazing football. We've seen that, they beat Buffalo actually back in week 3, but Tua Tagovailoa has not lost a single game all year that he has both started and finished. He has had a really fantastic season, really kind of quieted down a lot of those rumors that he was not ready to carry this team, that, his arm was too weak. I mean, sure, he has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, 2 great receivers, but he's done what he's needed to do, kind of like another guy, Jimmy Garoppolo for the 49ers. He's been kind of criticized a lot. The 49ers didn't really believe in him entirely. They drafted Trey Lance. They wanted their offense to be more dynamic. The fact of the matter remains is that you can win a lot of football games with Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's proven that in many ways. I mean, they almost won a Super Bowl, but Patrick Mahomes pulled off a fantastic fourth quarter comeback, and the Chiefs never looked back. But the 49ers, making that big trade for Christian McCaffrey, I don't think they're not as flashy of a pick as maybe Philadelphia and Dallas is, and maybe even Minnesota in the NFC. But I think that if San Francisco is hot at the right time, they can also make it to the Super Bowl. So Miami and San Francisco here, 2 teams who I think have a real shot at making the Super Bowl, although many others may not feel the same way. That is a fantastic game coming up here on the radar. We're going to see on Monday night tank division back in full effect with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New Orleans Saints. The Buccaneers, they had a tough loss there last week to the Cleveland Browns, where Jacoby Brissett was still starting. The Saints really have not been able to get anything to go. The 49ers actually shut them out, which is another point about the 49ers. I mean, the 49ers, they can beat you in any way, really. I mean, they had a dominant Monday Night Football win over the Arizona Cardinals, where Jimmy Garoppolo threw for 4 touchdown passes. Or they could pitch a shutout against the New Orleans Saints and really win off a dominating defense. So, yeah, that Dolphins-49ers game, someone I'm definitely really looking out for. But, I mean, looking over the schedule, I think that pretty much sums it up for what I would point out. I mean, I think, honestly, the Sunday Night Football game is maybe the worst game on the schedule this week with the Cowboys and the Colts, just because, we always have to have Dallas in prime time.
Why is that Sunday Night Football again?
Because it's the Dallas Cowboys, and everyone wants to watch the Dallas Cowboys, right? I mean, I personally don't, but
Jets Saturday on Sunday Night Football, but the Jets can't get Sunday Night Football.
Did anyone even mention?
Yeah, and that's another thing to point out too. They actually announced that flex for Week 14. It is going to be the Chargers and the what was it? Chargers, Dolphins, I believe, over the Giants, Eagles, and the Jets and the Bills. Now, personally, I think you would have got higher ratings if it was the Giants or the Jets, because let's face it, the Chargers do not have any fans. You're not going to get any fans from Los Angeles watching that game. It's going to be all Miami. I think you would have been much more better suited getting the Giants or Jets on there. Although Daniel Jones.
Why
Jets,
is that not it?
Yeah, even Giants, Eagles.
Game. I'm tired of this.
Giants, Eagles too. The Giants still have Daniel Jones has never won a primetime game, so maybe that's better for us. Maybe it's better.
Primetime game in 9 years.
Yeah, I mean for the Jets, it's been tough out there, but no primetime for them. But I think that pretty much sums it up for our recap for this week. Our recap looking forward to next week.
I'm really even talk about Chiefs Bengals.
I did. Robbie did.
You did? Yeah. I mean, this is. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you talk about that, but that's a huge game for the Bengals, especially with the Ravens playing.
Playing the Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos. I was thinking
Broncos country. Let's ride. That's how we're finishing this.
I would hope
this is how we're finishing the segment today, as Russell Wilson would say. Broncos country. Let's ride. Into the stands. Let's ride. I kind of like that, but we're gonna shift it over to what other countries call football, the FIFA World Cup, which. What a story this has been.
Where do you start?
Where do you start? I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna.
The United States.
I'll start with the United States of America. Let's do it. So they, very interesting group stage. I question. I remember I've been on record when I broke down the USA, questioning a lot of Greg Berhalter's decision making.
Yeah. I
was not wrong.
No,
you see what he. So my biggest issue. I'm gonna go back to the Wales game from I think it was Monday or Tuesday. The biggest, I'll call it red flag. We'll go with that terminology. Is we went up 1-0. Great goal from Tim Weah, and we went all defensive. That's not how you win games. You saw if anyone's watching this live, Japan played this afternoon against Spain. Did the equivalent of nothing in the first half. Got allowed, I believe it was like the second most passes ever allowed in a half. It was like 500 and something to Spain. They went out and scored 2 goals in 4 minutes. Why can't the U.S. do that?
I have a better example. How about Mexico? What they did against Argentina?
Yes.
They get 5 in the back.
Yeah.
And a game that you bring in this coach, Tata Martino, one of the most highest paid coaches in Mexican soccer history.
Fire this man. Fire this man.
He puts 5 in the back, doesn't start. Edson Alvarez, a guy who's playing in Europe, one of the few Mexican players.
I actually like Edson Alvarez a lot. I feel like he's underrated. I feel like he's very underrated.
Edson Alvarez. And not starting against Argentina. You played for the 0-0 draw, which is not how Mexico plays, and that's not how they've won their big group games that they've won in the past World Cups. I mean, it's ridiculous, and I guess we'll talk a little bit more about Mexico in a few minutes. But that's another example of going for the 0-0 draw.
We'll keep breaking it down.
Didn't work.
USA allows stupid penalty late. Walker Zimmerman, thank you for being the best. I called the best defender on the team. I'm going to count him as our third best defender for center back at the defensive position from how he played in this group stage. He looked all right, but not as you would have thought for him playing every single qualifier. But you continue going down the list. We get England on Black Friday, a game that had, I believe, was one of the most viewed games in the World Cup this year. 0-0.
Very good game, though.
It was
very, very, very.
I wouldn't say it was very good because I think
very good performance by USA though.
The USA held their own.
I mean, I don't think people realize how important that is to get a draw against England.
Oh no, I said they were. I think I said they're going to draw. I think
I was thinking 3-1 England. I
remember I said when I picked the group, I said it was 2 draws and a win from the USA. I did say that right. Just think the draw was against the wrong team. But at the end of the day, the U.S. gets the job done. They get into the next round despite looking very uninspirational in the second half, despite Christian Pulisic scoring one of the – who knows how weird that goal was. I mean, it was a tap-in, but he got clobbered by the goalkeeper in the end. By the way, he is playing on Saturday.
Where did he get clobbered?
They actually didn't say where they thought he was. It was actually in the thigh area, in the quadricep area. Not quadricep. No, it was in the thigh area. But the USA, big question – it was not that actually. They said did not say that, but the concerns. Why haven't Aronson and Reina played enough? What the hell? Stop playing. I get you want to go with the established veterans. I 100% I'm behind that idea. However, I feel like at the end of the day, you have to play your youth. Do what
Exactly.
Spain does and start one of the youngest lineups against Japan today.
Like Javi, right? He's
They
younger
said
than
they
all
had
of us.
Gavi and Pedri in the central midfield with
Gavi's
Busquets,
younger than all of us.
and then you have 36-year-old Busquets.
Right.
That's your midfield. I'm fine. Like
Mexico did the same thing.
you see what like Weston McKennie, who should not have been pulled out in that game against Iran. Tyler Adams, who's the greatest leader I've ever seen play for a U.S. team since Landon Donovan. And then on the left, you get Yunus Musa, who has also been a little. I've been very critical of Yunus Musa for being underachieving a little bit. But I feel like Aronson, Reyna, really, maybe Jesus Ferreira, who has not played a single minute. What the hell are we doing? Like, too many question marks. On my notes here, we got the Dutch next. They very uninspirational effort from them as well.
Right.
I mean, they went out.
It seems like it's just Cody Gakpo.
I mean, the defense is kind of helped.
Defense being really good.
They went out. They beat Senegal in their opener, I believe. They beat Senegal, drew
2 late goals.
2 late goals. They drew Ecuador, and then beat Qatar.
That was a game Ecuador could have won that.
They should have won that game, but they beat Qatar and proved how bad Qatar is, 3-0.
Terrible.
But I mean, you look at the guys in that team still. How deep? Just look at the talent they have. They have Frankie De Jong, Matej Delic, Virgil van Dijk, Memphis Depay, Cody Gakpo has been mentioned, Nathan Ake, and they just have
their goalie too. I don't know who.
I don't even know who this man is.
I forgot his name.
Is he the new Tim Krul? Like, what are we doing?
I don't know.
Guys?
He's
but
2 clean sheets.
I think it's 2 or 3, but I mean, it's a very tough game to pick though. USA.
I think this is the best round of 16 game we're gonna have.
Really?
I think it is. I think the only one that maybe rivals it is we have Japan, Morocco.
I think
Morocco.
Who's Spain playing?
Spain is. Oh no, I'm sorry. Spain is playing Morocco.
Japan, Croatia could be very interesting.
Yeah, but I think Netherlands, USA.
I think there's gonna be some interesting matchups because there's 1 day left of group stage matches tomorrow. When you see Serbia, Switzerland, please
That's
Serbia win.
I want Switzerland.
By the way, for those who have checked our group stage predictions, I think you guys had very similar picks. I think you have 9 and I have 10 or something like that. But way more picks right than I thought we were gonna get. But I'm going with 2-0 to the Dutch in regulation. I think we're gonna see goals from Frankie De Jong, who's finally gonna score a goal, and then Cody Gakpo.
He scored a goal.
Yes.
Yeah, against Qatar.
I don't think it makes sense. I didn't watch the game. I don't think many people watched that game. But I'm gonna say De Jong gets another one, and then Cody Gakpo is surprisingly in the lead for the Golden Boot.
I know.
Very interesting. But you got any more thoughts on the USA?
You know what? I'm gonna say the USA win.
USA win.
Penalties. I'm gonna say they win in penalties. Look, this team, they've given up 1 goal. It's a penalty. It was a penalty.
I get our defense has been good,
pretty much,
but you have to look at also Greg Berhalter is our manager. The Dutch manager has been there for too long.
He has not. He's been there for a year. And they
I forgot they changed. I forgot about that. But
he retired. He came back.
Right, I forgot about that. But they have much more experience. They have a much more experienced team, though.
I understand that, but and I was listening, and I guess this could go into my discussion about the other groups, where I'll start with Mexico.
Yeah,
I was watching these guys on ESPN FC. It's a podcast they have. It's called Football America.
Yes, I actually heard of that.
Those guys. They mostly talk about CONCACAF, and one guy brought up a great point that international soccer is a young man's game.
It is.
He brought up an interesting point too, that the reason why he calls it a young man's game is because when you're a young guy like a Gavi or somebody who's really young like that, you're too naive to let the big moment get to you. So. And that's something, where we're talking about USA starting big old veterans and not
Tim Ream, shout out. Tim Ream's a stud. Love Tim Ream. Shout out for the Fulham legend himself, Tim Ream.
Not going to guys like Reyna or
Aronson. Jesus Ferreira, who's 23.
Mexico, you got Andres Guardado and Hector Herrera. Both this is like their 4th World Cup.
Where's Chicharito? Is he retired?
He's not here either. I don't know why. He's like one of my favorite players in the world. And they didn't bring him because
I'm a US fan, right? I'm wearing the shirt.
Right.
And I love Chicharito.
I know, I love him too. I had his jersey. I don't know what happened to him.
Why didn't they not?
I don't know. I think it was something like
I think they said
and Carlos Vela is another one.
Why?
I don't know. I think there's
Carlos
that's what I'm
Vela?
saying. There was all like this some
that's a very weird
between the
very weird
coach.
decision.
Very weird that they didn't want to bring them. Very stubborn. Kept going Raul Jimenez as if he's like 2019 Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that.
Card.
Being
He's
a
like
being a Premier League fan myself, I do very vaguely. I think he had a hat trick against Arsenal. My guys from Arsenal,
and since
we still drew.
I got to give shout out to the defense. Ochoa saving that penalty from Lewandowski.
I feel bad for Ochoa.
Right, definitely.
If you played for the USA, we'd be the greatest team of all time.
No, I don't think so.
No, well,
but
I mean,
I don't think Matt Turner's the problem.
No, I know Matt Turner's not the problem, but imagine Ochoa. I mean, for those who don't know, Matt Turner made the biggest like meme
I think everyone here knows.
caliber mistake.
I
mean, we don't have all Iona viewers. I don't think we do at least. But yeah, he made that mistake against Iona playing for Fairfield.
It's crazy. Not Sports Center top 10.
Not Sports Center top 10 moment. And if you look at the clip, like it's so weird just mentioning this one Iona place, but you know I think is it the business building's not there? Business building, the freaking parking lot.
Yeah,
the parking lot. That's how old that clip is. But
also shout out when I go coming back to Mexico, Luis Chavez.
Yes,
I mean look at that screamer he hit in that game yesterday, and 2 more free kicks that were close. This guy's gonna be playing in Europe soon. He has to be.
I think he should.
Someone's got to take a flyer on him. Maybe Juventus needed some midfield help.
I feel like someone like Fiorentina would make a move on him.
Yeah, someone in Italy.
I feel like an Italian team, maybe a Bundesliga team. Schalke has a lot of issues. Schalke, I feel like can make a move, but
I have the United States still.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go keep it in Group C because we saw a little bit of drama with Lionel Messi and Argentina losing to Saudi Arabia.
Well, I'd like to. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're gonna talk about the Saudi Arabia game. I thought you were gonna talk about a game against Poland.
Oh no, I get to go more into it more, but like we saw Argentina.
I mean,
they lost their game, and then Mexico on the last day. Wow, a 95th minute L. They won the match, but
apparently it wasn't even like I think if they would have scored one more goal, they still would have went through based off goals scored.
No, so
something like that.
So Mexico needed one goal. So goal difference was equal. Mexico needed one. Yeah, they needed to go for goals for. But it's unfortunate, but Mexico's a great team.
And here's the thing with soccer, man. And this is like
it's unpredictable.
Exactly, and I think for a lot of American fans that are getting into it, you have to be passionate. You really do. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna watch soccer for the hell of it, and I don't care who wins. Because then you're never gonna get into it.
No, but my problem is like this is a little bit controversial.
I was passionate about that game yesterday.
The controversial,
and it was insane.
I'm gonna say something
one of the craziest moments I've ever experienced as a sports fan.
I'm gonna say something a little controversial here. I do not like people thinking that like, yeah, I'm gonna go watch the USA play in the World Cup for the first time in 8 years and think I actually know what I'm talking about. The amount of people who don't know half the team is immaculate.
I think
that's the issue.
The part that I don't like is all of a sudden, and I'm all right with opening for change, and I think everyone has entitled to their own opinion. But
yeah,
I remember I was listening to the Michael K show. You got some idiot calling in. They got to get rid of the offsides. You got to have the.
I saw that.
You have to have your defenders should only be on one side of the field. It's like, dude, all right, it's working way. Maybe all right. That's the thing is. If you don't like rules like that, then maybe soccer is not the world sport for you.
Yeah,
because there's a reason.
That's a great point. Like
maybe soccer is not the sport
we've learned
because it's working for the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you see what.
Not everybody has to like every sport.
Exactly, that's a phenomenal point. But I'm going to continue with the groups.
I personally do, but I find it.
I mean, you never know. But... I'm going to go jump into Group D, letter D, and we get France, just being France, and Australia.
Right. Yeah. That's
what. Where did Denmark go? Did they like just fall off the face of the earth? Like, what are they doing?
They're playing some of the most uninspiring soccer.
1 point. Good for you, Denmark. You get a draw.
It seemed people thought we were going to go to the final. I think some people, not final, but to go far.
Go far. Yeah, but we'll continue quickly moving down before we get into some other picks. Morocco won their group.
That's nuts.
With Japan.
I mean,
Japan and Morocco.
I thought Belgium were frauds.
You called it out. You were on. I said.
I didn't think they were going to lose.
I said Belgium were going to lose in the round of 16, so I'm close in it. But what are they doing?
And I think what that does, and it's not that nobody.
They also fired their manager.
Right? Yeah, you had to.
Good for him.
I think what that Belgium game does is something that's not new, right? I think it reinforces the idea, the importance of players being in form and healthy over the name. Because you thought Lukaku, Hazard, that'd be some names. Obviously, you have De Bruyne,
Courtois,
and Vertonghen and Alderweireld. But Alderweireld and Vertonghen are getting old.
Aren't they
Lukaku's
both
coming
like
off an injury.
34?
Yeah, they both play in like the Belgian league now. Lukaku's coming off that injury, and Hazard has not been the same since he left to Chelsea. Colin, looks like you got some interesting news.
Do you guys
coming up.
anything for us?
I was looking at not interested in news, but I wanted to bring up a big point about that Iona Fairfield game you were talking about where Matt Turner gave up that goal. I'm looking back at this box score. So this game was on October 16th, 2013. Now, Fairfield jumped out to a 1-0 lead at Mazzella Field, but Iona scored a goal in the 72nd minute and 87th minute. So for context, Matt Turner gave up more goals in 28 minutes against Iona Soccer than the English, Welsh, and Iranian national team in the entire group stage of the 2022 World Cup. So ultimate shout out to the 2013 Iona men's soccer team. You scored more goals off Matt Turner than the English, Welsh, and Iranian national team was able to in the entire group stage. Phenomenal performance there, but it also shows just how great Matt Turner has been for US there. I was waiting until we were done with this World Cup to bring that up, but since you guys were looking over at me, I figure I said mention it now. Shout out to Matt Turner and the Iona soccer team.
And I think
That's
that's
funny.
I think
That's funny.
Also,
That's
shout out
funny.
to Matt Turner because I mean that what a comeback story.
Look what he's done.
Hitting rock bottom, giving up 2 goals to Iona to
Including one of the most biggest meme goals I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, shout out Matt Turner.
How about Germany?
Germany. So for Germany, so this game was today. I was actually in the lounge in Loftus Hall watching this game, having like the flip to the games. Germany went up 1-0. Nice goal from Serge Gnabry. They then concede and then concede again. They were losing, and we almost saw Japan and Costa Rica go through.
Yeah,
Excuse me,
insane.
what?
For 2 minutes, we had Costa Rica
and then Germany, Germany, said, "Screw that. We're gonna actually want to score," and they put up 3 goals in 20 minutes. And then they decided, so like, yeah, we're good, and they still got eliminated because Spain held it down. But interesting note there that like, what are they doing, guys? Come on, like Spain's gonna get the ultimate more harder thing for me because I think they have the better talent. But we may have saw the last game of Thomas Muller and Manuel Neuer in the World Cup beating Costa Rica of all people.
I mean, you can't like blame Germany all that much. You really
can't.
Because I mean, they had the tough loss. All right, you had a tough loss against Japan. It's not the only tough loss there's been in the World Cup.
But they drew Spain.
But like Spain's good.
Yeah,
really good. I mean, they came off.
This is more excusable.
And I get Spain then lost.
This is more. This is more excusable than losing to South Korea with a God squad. You lost to South Korea in Russia with a God squad. How?
You lost 2 games.
2 games.
You almost lost 3. And then you
should have been
beat Sweden.
Yeah, but we're gonna go into the games that are tomorrow real quick. We got Brazil just being Brazil, and Neymar actually only playing 1 game, which is not gonna help my Golden Boot prediction. But Switzerland.
Yeah.
Despite me saying all that garbage about Switzerland, they went out and are on the fringe of making it into the next round. They just need a draw in Cameroon not to beat Brazil. Serbia, my underdogs, need to beat Switzerland and hope Cameroon does not beat Brazil. Right. The only way Switzerland gets in by not needing to do anything is drawing and Cameroon not winning by multiple goals. It's as simple as that. But and then we get into CR7 led Portugal doing the equivalent of the bare minimum and barely beating Ghana on Thanksgiving.
Not for nothing.
Excuse me, what?
One of the candidates to win the golden ball is who I said
Bruno
Fernandes. He's been really good.
Yeah.
2 goals, that whole controversial thing with
but
hit Ronaldo's head and it didn't.
Yeah, that's true. But we get how did Ghana win a match? I said all that trash. Sorry to all the African teams. I really went after the African teams, other than Senegal. I mean, like I knew Senegal was good, but like some of the other teams, like. They're okay.
I think Morocco deserves that.
Morocco, and there's a good amount of teams that I've said way too much trash on. Sorry to all the African teams. Sorry about that.
I'm pretty sure. I think the way the tables stand, I think that's how we're gonna. I think that's how it's gonna pan out. I think we're gonna get Portugal, Switzerland, Brazil, Ghana.
So Portugal would be. So you say Portugal, Uruguay.
Portugal looks so good, and they have guys who I forgot about, like Ruben Diaz.
Ruben Diaz and Ruben Neves, or as the Portuguese announcer say it as Ruben Neves. I don't understand.
I think like Bruno Fernandes. It's not Bruno Fernandes. It's Fernandes or something. I don't know. That's Portuguese.
That's incredible. But
I'm used to Spanish.
I know, but We get Uruguay needs to win and South Korea to not beat Uruguay. So whoever wins South Korea or Uruguay tomorrow goes through. Who would have thought South Korea and Uruguay? South Korea,
yeah, maybe, but
they're getting carried by one player.
Uruguay, I thought would have been
South Korea, that's very odd to me. But it's been a very interesting World Cup and a very fun World Cup. But who has been, besides Germany, your biggest disappointment?
It would have to be Belgium, I think.
You're going Belgium?
I know they're old.
I knew you were going to say Belgium. That's why I did not say Belgium. But
I mean, I guess you could. I don't know. I guess I wasn't too high on Denmark for whatever.
Denmark was my pick. My pick was Denmark.
Because other than that, how do you not make it past the group stage here, Belgium?
Denmark,
God.
like
they
Germany,
did not look good in any of their 3 games. Belgium,
like Denmark and Germany are my 2. Because Germany, okay, drawing Spain's excusable. You cannot lose that way. The way they lost on Black Friday to Japan is
it was
during break. They're on Wednesday to Japan. You can't do that if you want to contend. But we're gonna head to. We're gonna get Colin back in on the action. Mexico, that's another good one. But we're gonna get into some questions, and we're gonna kick it off with a Giants question with Christian, who was here last week. Yeah, he's not here this week. He will be back eventually. We do know that he will be back eventually. But his question is: do the Giants make the playoffs this season, and where will they be seated? Colin, kick us off.
Well, in order for me to answer this question, I'm pretty much going to need to go game by game here, looking at the Giants, Commanders, and the Seahawks. Now, I expressed many times how hard this Giants schedule is looking. So let's just say this is probably the most realistic case scenario for the Giants throughout the remainder of the schedule. I think that if you're going in games where the Giants should win, they only win 2 more games this season. I think they beat the Commanders this week and they beat the Colts on New Year's Day. That would leave the Giants with a 9-8 record. So keeping that in mind, let's go over now to the Seattle Seahawks and their remaining schedule. So if the Giants finish with a 9-8 record, the Seahawks play the Rams this week. Now we imagine the Rams have been an absolute dumpster fire. That has just been, what has happened with the Rams? They may be the worst defending Super Bowl champion we've ever seen. But if the Seahawks end up winning that game, I think, so that gives them the 7 wins. They play the Panthers, that gets them the 8 wins. Then they get a pretty rough stretch here. They play the 49ers, the Chiefs, and the New York Jets. The Giants may need the New York Jets to help the Giants get into the playoffs. That would be something.
We're going to beat Seattle. I can guarantee you that. We are beating Seattle. We are beating Gino.
So let's just say hypothetically, you just chalk it up that they lose those games to the games where they're favorited, right? That would leave the Seahawks with 8 wins going into that last week, once again, against the Los Angeles Rams. So you're going to need maybe the Rams to beat the Seahawks in this scenario in order for the Giants to make it. Because keep in mind, once again, like I said, the Seahawks have the tiebreaker. Looking over now, back over to the Washington Commanders. Let's take a look at their schedule. So I said they'd split. At least that's what I think is most likely. So that brings the Commanders up to 8 wins now. So taking a look over at the Washington Commanders schedule, I have to pull it up first. They play the 49ers. I think that we can all agree that is a loss. They play the Browns. You don't know with Deshaun Watson back. Maybe the Browns take that. It's tough to say at this moment. Then you get the Cowboys, and I think the Cowboys would take care of business as long as, but there's a chance that the Cowboys could already have the 5th seed locked up by that point. I think that's a very real possibility, but if the Cowboys are playing fully healthy, I think the Cowboys win that game. So taking a look at it, if the Giants do what we expect them to do, it's going to come down to maybe the Rams being the Seahawks and the Browns being the Commanders. Personally, what do I think is going to happen? Now, I want this Giants playoff appearance more than anything. I've seen the Giants be basically the worst team in football for the past 4 or 5 seasons. I think they'll do it. I think they will. I think they barely squeeze it out, edge it out. I say maybe this. It's tough to say. Everyone wants to be the 5th seed. You want to play Tampa Bay with how they've been looking, but I think probably from a realistic standpoint, I say they get in, maybe they sneak in at 7. Maybe you see a game against the Minnesota Vikings, which is going to be a very interesting one, I think, to a degree, because we've both seen that, Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones both have had questions about, playing in primetime, 2 guys who have not been able to get the job done there. But I say the Giants, I'm going to say, you know what? I think that, bold prediction here, I think they take a game against Philly. I think they'll do it, because I think by week 18 against Philadelphia, I think the Eagles might be resting. I think you'll have that number 1 seed locked up. So I'm going to say the Giants finish with a 10-7 record. They beat Washington on Sunday. They beat Philadelphia the last week of the season. They beat Indianapolis. And I say 10-7, you get in the playoffs maybe as a 7th seed in the NFC. I think I also want to ask Chris this here. What do you think? Do you think they make it in?
That's tough. It comes down to a lot of factors. Really tough schedule. You know what? I think my bold prediction is going to be that they beat Washington twice. I think that's going to be my bold prediction. I think they're going to get them once. And look, Washington's a good little team, but what do I have to back that up? Absolutely nothing, because I would think after the first game against Washington, the Commanders would learn from the Giants game, and they've been a very resilient squad that is silently still in the playoff mix. It's crazy. So I'm gonna say they do that, but God, it is so tough.
Yeah, no, I like the Giants picking the 7th seed. I mean, you went over it all already, but I'm gonna go into the next question from Kurt. Shout out to Kurt. It's a Jets question. Should the Jets draft the QB in either of the next 2 drafts?
Well, I think that by the next 2, I think
the next draft, absolutely
next
not.
year, yeah.
The upcoming draft, absolutely not. Because the quarterback class, I mean, we don't have many picks anymore because we traded them all. But 2, I do not like any of the QBs in this upcoming class. My only QB that I would even consider liking was Stroud, and he sold on Saturday. So not this upcoming draft. I mean, who knows? Maybe we suck next year for Caleb Williams. Who knows? But upcoming draft, probably not. Next draft, I mean, I feel like I said it before earlier in the show. I think Zach Wilson is still the guy. Maybe not. He's gonna turn. Maybe if his agent's not an idiot, maybe he like figures himself out and comes back next year being the best QB in the league. Who knows? But I'll always remember when he got injured in preseason week 1, and we all thought our season was over. Look at the Jets now, wanting to send this man to who knows where. All I want to say is right now, we better not sign Garoppolo because we don't have the cap space to do it. But to move on to the last question for Ariana's shout out, it's an Aaron Judge question, and I feel like you guys would have the best knowledge on it. So, what do you think the offer to Aaron Judge means for the rest of the league, and do you think he will sign with New York still? Colin, we'll start with you.
Well, we saw the proposed offer, I believe we're referring to here, is the 8 years, $300 million. Now, when I made my prediction for his free agent signing, I thought you'd go upwards of $330 million. Usually when these negotiations happen, maybe the Yankees start off at a lower number, maybe raise it. So I'd have to imagine they'd offer more because I can't picture it just being $300 million. I mean, they're going to raise it. We saw in the past couple of weeks, we saw him go to San Francisco in a video where it looked like it was kind of staged, but it looked like he was announcing he was going to San Francisco for a visit with the Giants. We don't know what happened there. We don't know any numbers that could have got out. But it's looking like, at least right now, I don't know if any other teams have stepped up, but it's looking like it's just the Yankees and the Giants. And once again, I addressed this in a previous episode, but I just don't see why you'd pick the Giants over the Yankees. There's just no, unless Aaron Judge is really valuing just his, him being a Giants fan back when he was younger. If that's really what his motivation is, I mean, hey, trust me, if I were an MLB player, I'd want to play for the Yankees. They're the team I rooted for growing up. I can imagine that definitely plays a factor. Yeah, I know that's what Garrett Cole did. That's part of his motivation. I get that, but once again, you're just the Yankees. You're going to have more abilities to win a championship, obviously. I mean, sure, the Yankees, maybe they're never going to be as good as the Houston Astros right now from where we stand, because that's another thing. Astros end up getting Jose Abreu, a move we didn't talk about, but that was a pretty good move for them. But you're going to be a better championship contender, way more endorsements and way more marketability being in New York versus being in San Francisco with the Giants. Just a more hitter-friendly ballpark, just so many factors just going the Yankees' way. It really just comes down to if they're just cheap, really. If the Giants give them a huge number, say the Giants give them 340, well, for the Yankees, you need to give them at least 330. You can't let the San Francisco Giants lowball you, especially when you're the New York Yankees. So I think that this is more just negotiating from Aaron Judge, trying to get the Yankees to rise up the number as high as possible. But unless the Giants really give a monumental offer, I see no way he leaves the Yankees. I just don't think he can do it.
Right, and I have to agree also with that. And JP Morosi also brought up a good point. It's pretty obvious. If you're going to the Giants, you have to make sure they're going to give you all the pieces that you need to win a championship and be a consistent playoff contender, because that's the best possible chance to win. Now, will they do that? They've said they will. They said they want to get Judge and another star or two, maybe, whether that's Kodai Senga, Carlos Correa, Trey Turner, whatever it is. But I mean, look, I guess we'll evaluate his choices, right? Yeah, between the Giants and the Yankees, right? If you're the Yankees, you're going to be named Yankees captain. There's no way you sign with the Yankees, you don't become the Yankees captain. You would be getting more money with wherever you go, so that would be something. You get more money from the Yankees, I would hope. It's the place where you've made your career resume, and you've accomplished all these great feats and all these things, and it's a team that drafted you. It's your home team. You were home. Grown into. Fans love you here. It's New York. Well, let's not make it seem like San Francisco's Kansas City here. Okay, like you think of some stars, right? This is the one city. Don LaGreca said it best. This is the one city that doesn't hate Barry Bonds. And I still think Barry Bonds is the all-time leading home run record, for a single season. But that's a different story. It's just the fact that he has fans outside of San Francisco. This is the one city that does not hate him entirely. They love him there. You think of guys like Tim Lincecum being on the cover of MLB The Show. Buster Posey got also a lot of T-Mobile commercials like Aaron Judge has. So it's not a terrible thing if he goes to San Francisco, gets more money, good weather. I'm sure it's home. He goes there in the off seasons. His family lives there, everything, right? But I think he would have to choose the Yankees still. I think it's clear that the Yankees need to bring him back. He's your guy. Go out. They've made it clear to Aaron Judge as well that if they sign him, they're going to give him more money. That's not that they're not just going to give him 8 years, $300 million. They have to. I don't like that they keep making it public because then I don't think Aaron Judge likes that. Although we don't know Aaron Judge and we'll find out when he signs. But I think that if you're the Yankees, you got to go out and get this guy. They've assured him that they'll do whatever they need to do to bring him back and go get whatever they need to go out and beat the Houston Astros. A free agent who I love as well, who I haven't talked about, who I think the Yankees definitely should go get this guy as well as Carlos Rodon, the starting pitcher last year.
Mets have been targeting him as well.
He is incredible. He's a power pitcher from the left side. The Yankees have not really had a pitcher like that in a very long time. I think like Randy Johnson has to be the last one you think of, but he wasn't even really good with the Yankees. He is really good in Yankee Stadium's ballpark. So an offseason of Judge, Rodon, maybe you let the young guys play, and that's a different team. You go back into next season, you see what happens, but that's the change the Yankees need, and it all starts with bringing back Aaron Judge.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, but due to time constraints, we have to go to our Thursday night football pick. First time in a couple of weeks, we get Bills Patriots, who both of you guys, I believe, at least one of you guys have brought up today. Buffalo coming off an interesting couple of weeks. I'm going to make my pick off the start. People think this pick is going to be biased. It's not biased. I'm going with Buffalo. Josh Allen, I feel like Josh Allen needs to figure himself out. Let me go with that. And meaning by that is he's had a lot of turnover issues to teams that he should not be having. Minnesota is not the best defense in the world. I mean, they have Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, Pat Pete, who has 2 picks on him somehow. So they're not world beat. You can argue that they are, but their defensive line, you get Danielle Hunter, and that's about it. But, I'm going to go with Buffalo. Josh Allen's going to figure himself out. I think he throws for over 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, including 2 to Diggs. Buffalo takes this one 34-20. Colin, what do you got tonight?
I saw on Robbie's poll, 17% of people picked the New England Patriots. I'm joining those 17%. I'm going for the Patriots. Yep. I'm going for the upset here. And the reason why is because, we talked about Josh Allen, and he had that injury against the Vikings where he hurt his elbow. And, it's been but it's been a storyline so far about like how Josh Allen, has been throwing the football. You've seen he's kind of struggled with the shorter throws, but, the bigger throws he's done better. But I think Bill Belichick's going to try to, force in those short throws. We've seen in so many instances, Bill Belichick just commanding his defenses, doing great jobs there. I think that the Patriots have done pretty good against the Bills in recent history. They had that big, Buffalo killed them in the playoffs last year. That was definitely a massacre. But we saw a game last year, I believe, what was it? Mac Jones threw about 3 or 5 passes. Remember there was a game in the Blizzard in New England where that was one of the weirdest games to watch, by the way. We only saw Mac Jones throw the ball in the single digits, but the Patriots still won because I think they have somewhat of an idea how they can maybe win this game. You control the ball, keep Josh Allen off the field. The game is in New England, and I'm going to go with the Patriots to win this one. I'm going to go for a low scoring affair. I'm going to go for a 23-20 Patriots win over the Buffalo Bills.
I am also going to go with the Patriots in this game as well. And again, this is another week where I chose the Bills on your poll.
You got it wrong last time.
By
the way, last time you picked it, I forgot who we all picked. You flipped. You chose the team that me and Colin picked. You flipped back to us, and then they lost.
Yeah.
Bills are going to win now.
What's your point?
It's weird that you're flipping it.
Because I'm wrong.
Hey, make your pick.
I'll be wrong again. Let's go Patriots.
All right.
I think for all the reasons Colin said, Bill Belichick's always been good at taking away quarterback strengths. I think
that is very true.
Also with Josh Allen struggling a bit, and I'm going to go for the madness in the AFC East.
Yeah, I like it, though. But unfortunately, everyone, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning to episode 11. Feels great to be back in the studio. For those who are watching live, thanks for watching. If you're viewing us on YouTube, hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching us as well. Make sure to tune into us every Thursday from 5 to 6 right here on Iona Gales Radio Network YouTube. And make sure to follow us at Into the Stands on Instagram. The link the name of the Instagram is in the bio, in the description, correction. And for all the guys who are watching, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week.